I would have met Vern the first time in about 1992 or 93 when I moved to Jones County the first time. It's hard for me to imagine that someone who knows Vern does not see the qualities that I see, which is wisdom, compassion, leadership, a strong sense of community for Jones County. He grew up here. He purposefully wanted to move back here and finally did and opened his business. But just someone who cares for people. Probably only he and Miss Joan know the number of people that they have helped and impacted over 50 years of business in Jones County.
In 1990, Vern hired me to run the EDA. He was an honest Christian man, and that came very quickly when I first met him. The neat thing about Vern and Joan Getty and Steve in later years was that he owned the Western Auto Store in Ellisville. And that wasn't just a typical Western Auto Store, because it was more like a country store where you could go in and sit in a rocking chair, or as Billy did, a recliner, and talk and hear what was going on in town. But he also helped a lot of people out in that position. If they needed something, Vern and Joan helped them out.
Well, first of all, I count it a great privilege and an honor to be able to pay tribute to a giant of a man like Vern Getty, and he is a giant of a man. I knew Vern when I was a school administrator. I went to church with Vern and have gone to church with Vern for many years. I also knew Vern when I started a state farm agency. Very encouraging, and he continued to encourage me for 30 years, and I thank him for that. I think the fact that he was on the board for 35 years reflects on his unselfish character, because it takes a lot of time and commitment to serve in any organization, particularly for 35 years.
I actually knew Vern's sister, met his sister Jan about 1980, and it was really about 20 years later before I really got to meet Vern properly and find out who he was, and that's at the time that I came onto the EDA board. One of my favorite times in working with Vern on the board was during the early development and planning of the Howard Technology Park, what became the Howard Technology Park. My business is technology, so it's easy for me to be excited about a project like that. But what I learned from Vern was it's not just about always about what's just new and exciting. It's about, is this really going to help the people of Jones County? Is it a good thing? Is it something that it will be a benefit to the workforce that we have, or the folks with the education that we have in Jones County? Is it going to help everyone? He was very excited about the project, but I learned from him, you don't just go with everything that's new. You want to make sure you're reaching the goals of EDA, which as a founder, he's one of the ones who knows best what EDA should be about.
I've had the opportunity through the years to need to go sit down with Vern on EDA matters, church matters. For those who know the layout of Vern's store, you've got what I call the main store through the front door, but off to the side is where they had furniture. And I don't know how many times he and I would go in there, sit in reclining chairs, and talk about whatever we needed to talk about. And so that's always a fond, fun memory that I have of Vern, is sitting in the recliner chairs and me seeking his counsel and wisdom and advice on whatever the matters happen to be. If you go back and read some of the history of the Masonite strike in the late 60s, here is a man and a woman who want to come back to Jones County, who gather every dollar that they have and move their family from a well-paying job to open a retail business in January of 1969, went right in the middle of the Masonite strike. And again, it's the number of people that he's helped. What I would say, I guess, when I think of Vern, I think of kindness, compassion, wisdom, and I just call him my friend.
The announcement had already been made that a major chicken processing plant was going to come here. And we jokingly called it the spent hen plant because that plant processed chickens who no longer laid, and that was called Southern Hens. And so we had the groundbreaking shortly after I arrived, and Vern was an integral part of having that done. The other thing that I will always remember about Vern, and I hope he continues to do it and includes me, is that he would treat the staff at EDA at least once a year, sometimes more than that, by bringing his, and he made them, his apple dumplings, and he would share that with the staff. Thank you, Mr. G, for all of your hard work and dedication and for hiring me and Semper Fi.
What I personally have learned from Vern is dedicated. When he commits to something, he is going to be there. He is going to be early. He is going to see it through to the end. And I think that is something that future leaders can learn from Vern. It's easy to commit to something or say you will do something, but when it gets tough, when it gets boring, when it gets long, that's the real test. And Vern is the supreme leader in that he doesn't quit. When he is committed to something and he says he's going to do it, you can count on him, and that's very important.